Shalom. Call limelight Howell Bashem, Yahweh Shai Bashem, Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And sincere shalom to the 144,000, 1/3. Now, DOJ sent a subpoena to Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve as a form of a shakedown, political pressure for the Federal Reserve to cut rates and potentially to make Jerome Powell step down as governor once his term as Fed chair ends. All right. So the markets didn't have such a sharp reaction. It baked it in quite fast. Even Trump, madness with his tariffs, got ignored as well. Trump tried to put a tariff, 25% tariff on all countries doing business with Iran. Got overlooked. Nobody really cared. You know, they got the term taco. Trump always chickens out. And guess what? The world, okay, is starting to see the pressure of Babylon the Great, but can also see the weakness. You know, Trump has empty threats. He tries to be a dictator in a country that can't fully allow it. But ultimately, the nations see how powerful this place is. And also, one of the main forms of capabilities that Babylon the Great has over the earth is the central bank known as the Federal Reserve. And the president appoints the chair. Now, Jerome Powell was appointed by Donald Trump. For whatever reason, Trump stopped liking him because he wouldn't cut interest rates when Trump wanted him to. Now, going to go into the hill right here. Trump wants to install another sock puppet on Federal Reserve Board. I don't know what it means by another. And the person of interest is what's his name? I know it's Kevin something. Kevin Hassett. There you go. That's he's a Trump loyalist, and Trump potentially is going to have him become the new Fed chair, which people will question if the Federal Reserve is independent or not. So let's dive into this right here. Senator Elizabeth Warren said the Senate should halt all President Trump's nominees to the Federal Reserve because of the DOJ probe, the subpoena, into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, arguing it threatened the independence of the central bank. There you go. And it's looking that way. On top of that, the subpoena was totally uncalled for. Everybody knows. And then Jerome Powell sent his the ruling and information of the cost needed to refurbish the federal building to the Senate already. But guess what? Trump is trying to put that pressure, trying to stir chaos. Let's get this right here. So this is 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us if we were not ignorant of his devices. So these devils making all these moves, doing what they want to do to bring in this MOTB system. Guess what? It's not going to work. Because ultimately, the Most High Yahweh is going to crash, rain on Esau's parade. Senate Republicans are rushing to defend Jerome Powell from the DOJ criminal investigation, which is politically motivated. GOP lawmakers are challenging the Trump administration investigation of Powell a week after 5 Republican senators voted to advance war powers. All right. The loudest warning shot against the White House came from Senator Tom Tillis, a senior member of the Senate Banking Committee, who accused Trump's advisors of deliberately trying to undercut the Fed's independence and threatened to block the president's nominees of the Fed until the investigation is fully resolved. He said the criminal probe Powell's testimony before Congress last year over $2.5 billion renovation of the Fed headquarters raises questions about the independence and credibility of the DOJ. Yeah. All right. What sense does that make when he already told the Senate or whatever, all right, Congress, how much, he gave a detailed layout of how much it cost already. So what is the DOJ getting involved for if it's already been transparent? Let's get this right here. This is Mark 3:25. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And guess what? The house of Esau, okay, the Edomites, they're divided. Because guess what? You got Trump doing this, and you got Tillis and all these other Republicans and Democrats doing that, rallying against them. Senator John Kennedy, another senior member of the Banking Committee, expressed frustration over the probe, which he warned could make it more expensive to borrow money. There you go. Things are not, people are not aligning themselves with what Trump is trying to do, trying to hijack the Fed. And if the Fed, Lord's will, I'll do another video dedicated to that. The Fed, if the Federal Reserve is not independent, is seen as dependent, it'll rapidly cause the decline of Babylon the Great and society as a whole, because the U.S. is the global reserve currency. Let's get this right here. Bear with me. All right, let's see if this goes through. If not, I'll find another one. All right. Central. Yeah, thought so. Hold on. Trump allies distance themselves from potential Powell investigation. Yeah, they not rocking with this, man. The Federal Reserve's modus operandi through years of attacks from Trump has been straightforward: head down, do your job, don't get sucked into counterattacks. And another one. All right, let's just dive into this, and then I'll find the article, because it was one I had, but I lost it. Can't find it again. So while the spirit allows me to find one, I'll pick it back up. So this is the Trump loyalist right here. All right, Kevin Hassett. If Kevin Hassett becomes Fed chair, would a Marcus assume the Fed is dependent? If Kevin Hassett is appointed Federal Reserve Chair, Financial markets would likely assume a high risk of the Fed being dependent on the president. Of course, assumptions is meaningless. It has to be proof. The proof would be if he starts aggressively cutting interest rates. That'll be the proof. Monetary policy alignment. Hassett has indicated he would favor lower interest rates, a policy preference consistently advocated by the president, even when inflation has been above the Fed's 2% target. This alignment is viewed by some as a potential compromise of the Fed's dual mandate, maximum employment and price stability, in favor of short-term economic stimulus that may benefit the current administration's political goals. Yeah, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. That's what this is all about. All right, ultimately, and controlling the weak, which will be the poor. All right, here goes one. Get rid of this. Before I read this article, let me get this right here. Because guess what? This is what the keepers of the house starting to mourn. You got people calling out this weirdo behavior from Trump. This is Ecclesiastes 12:3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. So guess what? All that, this is all leading to that. Because the Fed is under attack. Okay. You got Babylon the Great stirring up the world. China getting ready to invade Taiwan. The European allies distancing themselves from Babylon the Great. It's all coming to play. And then you got this digital system rolling out. Murkowski followed with her own statement on Monday, saying that she spoke with Powell on Monday morning and called the administration's investigation nothing more than an attempt at coercion, adding that Tillis is right in blocking any Federal Reserve nominee until this is resolved. There you go. Things are not looking good. Things can spiral out of control even more. Alongside Tillis, Democrats on the Senate's banking panel are expected to oppose any upcoming Trump picks for the central bank en masse. There you go. So they Jerome Powell may stay in there longer, because if they block it, Jerome Powell will just stay in there until a compromise. This is about whether the Fed, this is Jerome Powell speaking. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation, Powell said. So guess what? If the Fed becomes dependent, this place is going to you're going to see the treasuries and bonds be sold off by these other countries, which will lead to something like this. All right, not saying that's how it's going to play out, but let's read this right here, because ultimately this is going to happen. Economic collapse is going to happen. This is Zephaniah 1:10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second. So this is going into the economy. And a great crashing from the hills, which is what is going into an economic collapse. We're going to see an economic collapse, and this is just going to be a part of it. Whether the Fed is independent or dependent or not, this is going to leave a sour taste in people's mouth for a while, quite a while. The investigation adds to concerns about the central bank's independence, concerns that have lingered since Trump began publicly criticizing Powell and attempted to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook last year over allegations that she committed mortgage fraud. All right. And then Trump is picking a new Fed chief. And the man in question is a Trump loyalist. Powell's term as Fed chair expires this year in May, though he will have the option to serve out his term on the Fed's board of governors, which ends in 2028. There you go. And he's more than likely going to stay. Any day, Trump could announce his appointment for the next Fed chair. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett is seen as a front runner among the finalists. Yeah. And he's a Trump loyalist. Hassett says he was not involved in DOJ's investigation, so he spoke out. Hassett said on January 12th he was not involved in the discussions with the DOJ and didn't know whether Trump had approved his investigation to the Fed. So the mere fact he's very outspoken and on the scene with all this, pretty much you can assume that Trump is going to appoint him, and that can potentially lead to the markets seeing the Fed as dependent, which could lead to the devaluation of the dollar, all right, and a collapse of this economy, Babylon the Great's economy as a whole. But guess what? You got them saying they blocking the Fed chair. So we'll see how this plays out. All right. Adawan Ratazad is edifying. Shalom.